The Maine coast is filled with magical seaside towns out of a picture book, but the best kept secret might be Monhegan, an hour off the coast. An artist colony with a dozen art studios, most of which are open to the public, and featuring a giant network of hiking trails as well as several shops and eateries. We'll run through our 2-night stay, what we explored, including a stop to the island brewery along the way. Welcome to Brew England, a channel dedicated to all things New England culture, adventures, and beer. Monhegan is a small island, only about 1 square mile large, about an hour ferry ride from the mainland. No cars are allowed on the island, so expect to do some walking. The island is pretty small, and other than hiking, most of the main attractions are just a short walk from one another. If you have mobility issues, it is possible to rent a golf cart on the island. Monhegan is great if you want a nice, quiet, relaxing stay, strolling through the art studios and shops, exploring the natural beauty of the island's rugged coastline, and taking in the slow-paced island culture. It's not the place if you want something action-packed or late-night activities. The only bar on the island, which is a brewery, closes at 6 p.m. This is a place to disconnect and relax. Monhegan makes for a great day trip. You can see most of the highlights in a single afternoon, grab a lobster roll, and be back in Port Clyde by dinner. There are several inns and bread and breakfasts, as well as Airbnbs if you want to stay the night for extended stay. Just note you might have to book far in advance as accommodations are limited. Some places also require you to stay several days to a week in order to book, so keep that in mind. To get to Monhegan, you can take the ferry from Port Clyde, Booth Bay, or New Harbor. We did the ferry from Port Clyde via Monhegan Boat Line. I'll leave a link in the description. The ferry costs $50 per adult round trip, and parking at the ferry terminal is $8 per day. It takes about 2 hours to get to Port Clyde from Portland, so expect to get up early to catch the morning ferry or stay closer to Port Clyde. Also, bring a sweatshirt for the ferry ride. It might be 70 degrees or even 80 on the shore, but out at sea it can dip to 60 or 50 degrees. There is an indoor area and a bathroom aboard the ferry. We had 2 nights booked at the Shining Sail Bread and Breakfast apartment rooms, which cost just over $200 per night. We were able to drop off our luggage early so we could explore the island unencumbered. Right off the ferry, there is the Barnacle, which is half gift shop, half cafe. We bought some water here, but you can also grab coffee drinks as well as a selection of pastries, salads, and sandwiches. Good to mention that the only places offering full dinner services on the island are the Island Inn and the Monhegan House, which require reservations. We stopped by the Island Inn to put in our reservations for Saturday night. We then went off to explore. Saturday was supposed to be a washout, so we wanted to save all of the indoor activities for then. Despite being a small island, there's over 10 miles of rugged hiking trails exploring the forests, coves, and cliffs of the island. While most people should have no issues with these trails, if you have mobility issues, there are some routes and steeper sections to be aware of, as well as slick rocks. We went out to Lobster Cove, which was an easy hike right near the main village area. If you're doing the island as a day trip, this is the hike you want to do. At Lobster Cove, you'll meet the site of the D.T. Sheridan shipwreck. In 1948, the diesel tugboat ran aground on its way to deliver coal to Bangor. Thankfully, no one was hurt in the crash. Then in 1970, a massive storm moved the wreck 50 feet inland, flipping it completely. Lobster Cove is a peaceful place to watch the waves crash against the rocks, explore the shipwreck, and look for creatures in the tidal pools. After spending a good hour out here, we headed back to the village and went to Monhegan Brewing. Monhegan Brewing is one of 2 breweries accessible only by boat in Maine, the other being North Haven Brewing on North Haven Island, which is another great spot to experience island life in Maine. Monhegan Brewing features a large outdoor area completely surrounded by lobster traps, a small indoor taproom with merch, and a food cart serving up fresh fried seafood. We already had dinner plans, so we opted for the famed fried pickles as a snack. The food cart has limited hours, so make sure to check ahead if you're hoping for a meal here. Despite being an island, the beer at Monhegan Brewing is excellent. I ordered a flight of their lighter beers, including a Kolsch, Lager, and Blonde Ale, and everything was smooth and refreshing. Afterwards, we got settled in our rooms and relaxed until dinner. For dinner, we went to Monhegan Fish House, where you can get lobster and lobster rolls, but also stews, oysters, fried seafood, tacos, salads, and sandwiches. After dinner, we went to the island's best kept secrets, Night Night Fatties, which is an array of homemade desserts ranging from pies to cakes made daily by Melanie Tucker. Friday was Pie Day, and the assortment didn't disappoint. Who knew the best spot for dessert in the entire US was an island off the coast of Maine? After dessert, we had to walk it off by climbing the hill to the lighthouse and caught a gorgeous sunset with Monhegan Village in the foreground as the sun slowly set over the horizon. Afterwards, it was dark and we enjoyed a little stargazing on our way back to where we were staying, where we hung out until it was time to turn out the lights. In the morning, we went to Monhegan store for breakfast sandwiches and coffee. Thankfully, the weather wasn't nearly as bad as forecasted, so we decided to do a short hike to Whitehead Cliffs, which required us to hike back up the hill to the lighthouse. At Whitehead, we were greeted with stunning views of the rugged coastline on the eastern side of the island, waves crashing on the rocks, seagulls nesting, and we saw a few harbor seals frolicking in the waters below. We then made it back to the lighthouse, where it was $10 per person to enter the museum. The museum is a great way to learn more about the history of the island and island culture over time, from lobstering and farming to artists and tourism. There's also an ice house to explore out back and a small art gallery featuring some of the island's resident artists. By this time, there were blue skies again, and we started to explore some of the island galleries and shops, starting with the Lupine Gallery and Evie's gift shop. We also stopped by the island's public library, which is a must to just peek in and be amazed by the wall-to-wall amount of books they're able to stuff into that place. We then stop by the Trailing U, which offers lunch options ranging from sandwiches to salads, as well as pastries. We also stop by the Monhegan store to pick up some wine to go with dinner. Most places are BYOB on the island, and there's an okay selection of beer and wine at the store. If you're planning to cook at your Airbnb, this is also where you can buy some ingredients: meats, veggies, dairy. They won't have everything, but it's impressive how much they're able to pack into that little store. Afterwards, we explored a few studios like the Donna Cundy and Hill Studios. This is a great way to meet the artists, view some impressive art, and buy something if anything speaks to you. At this time, we had some time to kill before dinner, so we went back to Monhegan Brewing. Once it was dinner time, we headed off to the Island Inn with the wine we bought earlier that day. The Island Inn's restaurant is more of a traditional sit-down dining experience with a great selection of appetizers, seafood, and desserts. While my meal of bruschetta and swordfish were spectacular, We did not get dessert. Instead, we went back to Night Night Fatty's for some amazing brown butter cake. We hung out for a time at the small beach near Monhegan Fish House. While this is a pretty rocky beach, it's also a great place to hunt for seashells and sea glass. There's a more secluded Pebble Beach on the north side of the island that requires a short hike to get to as well. Soon it was time to turn in for the night. In the morning, we went to the mooring chain for some bagels with some great lox and fun spreads like horseradish whitefish. They also serve pastries and pre-made sandwiches and salads for lunch. They also roast their own coffee and have a full espresso machine for lattes and other drinks. We booked the 12:30 ferry, so we waited by the small beach until it was time to gather our luggage and head to the ferry dock. Overall, Monhegan is a magical place transporting you to a cozy island with charming shops and studios, some great food, and beautiful hiking trails. Even if you don't have the time for an overnight stay, you can see and experience just about everything in an afternoon on the island as part of a day trip. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'm pretty new to the YouTube game, so this would help me out considerably.